Okay, today's video is all about the idea of closing accounts. Let me say from the very start that everything I say about closing accounts is equally true for closing addresses, closing analysis codes like who or function or org ID. And so even though the big important thing is to be able to know how to close accounts, it's also important to realize that there's nothing special about closing accounts compared to also closing the who and the addresses and fixed assets. They all respond the same way and work the same way. And we're going to look at the different statuses of an account. I say the word closed a few minutes ago, but we also have the ability to hide accounts and suspend accounts. I'm going to explain to you what all of that means, and what are the implications of each of the four things. So let's get started in looking at just a simple idea of an open account versus a closed account. So I'm here in the chart of accounts screen, and let's just go ahead and look at an account. The sample account that I'm going to use here is this petty cash account right here, 101110, just since it's right at the top of my list. So it's 101110. I need to remember that. And what we want to do is practice. First off, you can see the account is open. And let me explain to you what an account being open means. It means that when we go to do a ledger entry, okay, so let me get a ledger entry going. You'll see me go through this process a lot. Okay, let's just go to ledger entry and we make a JV. Okay, and test like that, and then we're down here. And so when we go to look at an account that is open, you could see that petty cash account shows up, the 10110. It is open. Okay, now one important thing for me to tell you is that every time you change the status of account, it doesn't work correctly until you've closed and reopened the ledger entry screen. So I have to continue through this whole presentation opening and closing the ledger entry screen. Now let's go back over here to a 10110 and we'll close the account. So we have 10110. We'll open it there, and we've got that baby open here, and you can see it is showing a status of open. And we'll just set this thing right here and we'll close the account. Okay, and so we'll exit out of here and we go back over to ledger entry. JV, this is going to get a little boring. I ought to learn a few jokes. Okay, put this in here like so, and we go look for the account now, and you could see the 101110 is now not available for any sort of posting. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but that was 101 and then 3 ones and an O. And so let's go over here and we put in, let's just try typing it in, 101110. Okay, and we go, and you see the account is closed. Immediately I try to use the account, it gives me unequivocal, I can't use that account. Okay, so let's go back and look at what it means to suspend account now. So let's go back to our chart of accounts. Okay, go to chart of accounts setup, and I should mention to you that let's go ahead and get this thing back up, 10110. And in this particular form I'm using, the ability to control what it is, the status of the account is right here. But some forms you may be working with, some chart of accounts form may not have this, in which case the same functionality is up here under actions. Okay, and you can close and suspend. And so for what we'd like to do now is suspend the account. Okay, so now the account is suspended, either using the form that has it here or using the actions up here to suspend it. It works the same way both ways. Okay, so now we have an account suspended instead of closed. And let me show you the way that works. We go back to ledger entry. Okay. All right, and then when I go to the account code and ready to open it, it is actually there. So it's sort of still showing can be selected. We hit that, and we go ahead with the entry. It's selected it for the entry. It's still, suspended. It allows you to go ahead with the entry. Now, just keep your eyes open. Here we go. We're going to debit this account. And I think I've got all the details covered here. And then I go new line, and then it says, hold on a second. This account is suspended. Do you still wish to enter it? Okay, that there's a different way it's treated. It gives you this warning message. So all that it does is say, okay, you're using an account that really isn't okay to be used. Do you sure you want to go ahead? Okay, so that the meaning of a suspended account may be different in your organization, just what you would like it to mean when an account is suspended. You might have set several accounts to suspended, meaning you don't want a certain accountant to use those accounts, but you want them to be available to your controller. For example, prior period adjustments, or your purchases account, or something that the accountants frequently mess up. So you might want to suspend the account so it's just available for you, and you tell your accountants not to ever use a suspended account. That may be the way you use it. So your use of a suspended account, there's not a Sun Plus standard on that, but you could just see what it does. It asks. It has this pause or reflection for the accountant to go ahead and say no or yes. And so you may have some accountants instructed never to hit yes here, and other accountants who are comfortable with no that can hit yes. Or you may, even for yourself, you may have accounts that you want to put a little bit of reflection on before you use it. You're the controller, but you would like to have a pause to reflect before you actually use the account. For example, prior period adjustment, so you might suspend it, so it's a little bit you're a little bit slower about using it. Okay, and so you understand now closed and suspended. Let's do one more. Okay, so we go to chart of accounts. We only have one more to do. So we go to chart of accounts. We get it here. And we go back to our 110. Now the accounts, no matter what status they are, they all show up here and will always show up here. You cannot delete an account once the entries have been posted to it. If an entry has been posted to it, not been posted to it, you've created it, realized it was a mistake, you can delete it. But once an entry is posted to it, you're stuck with it for eternity. Well, not eternity, until the second coming. Okay, so now we're back to 11010, and it is currently suspended from our last illustration, and now let's hide it. And let me show you what hidden means. Okay, so we go over here, and then we go to ledger entry. Okay. We're going to do a JV right here. Okay, now when I go to account code and try to select it, it is not there. It's behaving the same way as if it were closed. Okay, but that account was 101110. Okay, and I come down here with the description and the date and the amount, That's a debit. And we go to a new line and it works fine. So the account is hidden, but it works like a regular open account. It's not available there to be selected when the accountant goes to select it, but if the accountant types it in, it will work. Now, frankly, I don't know exactly what I would do in an accounting office with suspended accounts and hidden accounts, but you've got that ability to figure out for your accounting office the way you would like to use it. Now, now that sort of explains what they all are. The one problem that we mostly run into is that we have opened an accounts, or to be clear on what I've been saying, everything I've said about the accounts being hidden, closed, or suspended is also true and available for analysis codes. That would mean your who's and your org IDs and your functions. Okay? So you could have a function that you don't want anyone, like for example, let's suppose you don't want anyone making an entry, you don't want your cashiers making an entry to allocated functions or allocated resources. Well, you could suspend those resources so when they hit that suspension error message, or question, is not really an error message, they know they can't go any further, while you know you hit yes and you can go on with making an entry to allocated function. That's just a possibility. That would be the same would be true with assets and also with your addresses. So all four of those statuses are available for your accounts, your analysis codes like who, function, projects, details, and your asset codes, assets, fixed assets, and with your addresses. Okay? Now, where we run into this as a big deal is at a college and university. Let's suppose that we have a lot of accounts that we would like to change the status of. Okay? So we could hit this button here. We go OK. All right, let's see if I can try to do this. All right, and we mark this one to reopened. Okay. Then we come down here and we go to the next account. Okay, and we could hit closed. Okay, then come down here and go to the next account. I'm going to mess up my ZAD here, but you get the idea. And then I could close, and then I could come back over here to these accounts and reopen the accounts. You get the idea, or close. And you can move through the accounts with these little navigation tools down here. But if I have had a graduating class of 200 students, this would be a lot of trouble. It wouldn't be so hard to do 200 in a row. 200 closed, 200, next one closed, next one closed, next one closed. But that's not what is happening. What is happening is that the next one, then I've got to look on a piece of paper and see, oh, that one closes. Then I go to the next one, and I see that one is not closed, and so I go to the next piece of one, look at a piece of paper and say, oh, that one needs to be closed. And it's really hard to actually, even though this is seems easy, it's hard to do for a whole bunch of students that have graduated or a whole bunch of employees that I don't have anymore. And so what I want to show you now is how to do this with import. Okay, I'm now ready to show this to you. I'm in Excel and I'm logged in to Q&A, and I'm going to do a little summary report of my accounts. Okay, I don't need to go there. Let's see, I need to go to the table of my chart of accounts. I could also do this with just equally with looking at the ledger, but let's just go there. So we'll look at all accounts, and we're going to list out all accounts and all codes, and so we're just listing out the account code, the description, the short heading, okay, and status. That ought to do it for us. So this is a simple little thing. So here are all of my accounts, and now just imagine we're working with 8,000 student accounts, and they're down here in the bottom. We'll do it with the ER accounts I have in my sample database, but the same principle is there. And we want this account to be closed, and we want this one to be closed, and we want this one to be closed, and we might as long as we're at it, well, let's just do closed, and we want these closed. These are students that have graduated or employees that are no longer with us. Okay, I'm also going to come in here. I always have put my layout identifier in my left-hand column. There's no reason that it is there, so I really didn't need to. I'm going to put a 1 right there, and I'm going to put a 1 at every account where I have a change in the status. Okay. All right, and so I've done just those 4, and now we're ready to do the data send. Okay, and we're sending this data. Let's see what happened to my data send. There we go. And the description for my data send, you know, things act a little bit funny when we're using the recorder on the screen, and so it's a little bit strange, and so I'm doing my account code. And again, let me emphasize that all of these things here, address codes, assets, all of the analysis codes such as who, org ID, they all have statuses, the same statuses that work exactly the same way, and they can be updated with this import. Okay, that for you that have done a lot of ledger imports, this will be a little bit of strange thing to you, but I'm going to go all the way up here. For my layout identifier, I'll go all the way to the top. Let's see if I can do this quicker. All right, we go all the way to the top, and we'll put this baby right there. Okay, and column A2, and we'll put the error cell right up at the top, right up here, and account code will be right there, and account description will be right there, and short heading, which is also required. Maybe it's not required. Let's just go down here and take, yes it is. Short heading is required, and so we've got it right here. And then our status, now remember this column right here, I didn't label it for us, but this column right here is the current status, and my new status is going to be in column F. Okay, that's where it needs to be looking for the new status. So we'll put it in column F, like there. Okay, and we are got to be very careful not to lose it, so we'll name this account code account status change, something like that, and we'll make sure we put it someplace we can find it. My favorite place to put it is right on the desktop, and it looks like it's okay. And so we've got the XML sheet is being sent to someplace we can find it on our desktop. We've got our definition set up. Our layout identifier is 1 because we were saying only pick it up out of this one deal here, whatever this is, this is 1, 2. So if we were sending information that had to go over here, then we'd put 1 semicolon 4 if we wanted to pick up information from that, or if 1 semicolon 10 if we wanted to pick up information from that. Okay, but all of the information we needed was just on this first definition, or whatever this thing is called. So we just use a layout identifier of 1. And so let's let this thing run, and we got I hope this is our standard error message, and you see this is the SOAP error there, so we're in good shape. Okay, so we now can go back over to Sun Systems, the main program. Let's leave this, and we'll go over to Transfer Desk, if I can find it. Remember how to spell transfer. Okay, we'll go to Transfer Desk. Remember, it opens up here at the bottom. When it's open, it's a little weird. And we want to make up a new import profile. The ones that are showing here are left over from previous videos, so we could get rid of them if they're a little bit confusing to you. You wouldn't normally, once you've got a good import profile working, you don't normally delete it. Just save it for the next time you want to do that same process. And so this one would be close accounts. Okay. Okay, the target here is the accounts. Now watch this. This is important, and this is different than what you'd expect. Amend will not work, even though in my book we are amending the accounts. We are going to come down here and do closed. Okay, and the business unit that is in our profile is ZAD. Okay, and the file that we're grabbing it from is right here, and is our desktop, and this is to account status change right there. Okay, and we do OK. And so we've created the transfer desk profile, and it's here ready with the default values of ZAD and the source default file name. But those are not, when we run the profile, we can change it to go to a different business unit and go find a different XML file. But I think we're all set. The default was set on what we needed, and so we hit this baby right here, and we should see it go through with 4 successful changes. I'm positive that we've had success there. So we close and we exit that, and then we go over to my chart of accounts, and let's go all the way down to the bottom of this deal here. And we could see here that we have these 4 accounts that have been closed. Okay, and so it has worked properly. Again, I want to emphasize to you that this could be done in the exact same process to close the who, or to close assets that you don't want to be listed and shown anymore. Okay, now that's not, closing is different. You'd close an asset after you disposed of it. Okay, if you didn't want it to show on your list. Now, there's one little bit of explanation left, and we're done. We're just almost done right now. We'll go look at Q&A. In Q&A, an account that has been closed is still going to show up when you go to look at the accounts. You see, these accounts, all these accounts are closed, but they still show up on the list. There's not any way to get them to not show up on the list. So these that we closed with the import, they still show up on the list. However, the status of the account is an attribute that can be used when you're building a report. So the closed accounts are still in your way when you're designing a query, but it is very simple to get closed accounts to not show up on a report by coming down to within the chart of accounts and the status. Okay, and you see the status here, it's been brought up here as a filter. Okay, and then you could filter on only having open accounts show up on your report. So if you're doing a summary report of all of your accounts, and you don't want your students that graduated 3 years ago to show up on that listing, then this would be a way to have those accounts filtered out. Okay, if you don't close the student accounts, you do a listing of all the accounts, and you end up having a whole bunch of student accounts with 0 beside them. Okay, so this would filter them out. If you've closed it and then you filter to only show open accounts, then they won't show on your report. They'll still be in your way when you do a design, but they won't be on your final reports. So thank you for this, and I hope that this has been helpful.